And finally, we have James Thornett from the BBC, Executive Product Manager of Local and Localisation.
I'm never brave enough to read out my own job title, so thanks for that, Ben. Yeah, so I think everyone hopefully or has a bit of an idea of what the BBC is, so I'm going to kind of use my kind of 5 minutes to talk about me and kind of where I fit into the jigsaw, and really picking up on what it says on the screen, local and location services. That's a mixture of local content that the BBC produce, mainly local journalism content, but also some of the tools that we're now trying to use on the overall BBC website, which has about 50 million monthly users, to actually localise that a vast amount of content to kind of people using mapping technologies and other location devices. BBC's been around for many years, obviously predating the internet and a lot of things we've talked about today. And this is kind of the, if you put to one side the network services that cover the UK, the main radio channels and TV stations and programming, we have kind of actually a vast array of output across the UK that is particular to certain parts of the Isles. 6 radio stations that cover purely Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland, 2 of those in indigenous languages in Wales and Scotland. We have 15 regional TV buildings with nightly news programmes and current affairs services across the UK. I think we have something like 82 manned and another 100 unmanned buildings across the UK where people either on a regular basis or have facilities to go in and kind of contribute stuff into the main kind of BBC network. So there's quite over the years, the broadcasting kind of infrastructure has built up to quite a significant kind of level. About 10 years ago, we kind of, I guess, put on top of that as the internet was kind of getting going and the BBC moving into the internet, we created what's been called about 4 different things over the 10 years, but it's currently we're kind of calling BBC Local, and I'm not going to get into now the debates around local. I think Roland has probably already very succinctly summarised why 60 sites across the UK covering these kind of size of areas are not really local at all. But we're calling them BBC Local, so that'll do for now. But we set these sites up. I guess it's worth saying that they're primarily for people that live in that area. So we've had lots of discussions around this issue of, is it for people visiting the area, is it people that are currently in the area on a mobile device? But actually, through thinking through ourselves and a piece of research, we've kind of basically focused on providing content for people that live in the area on the basis that if people want to visit a certain part of the country and they visit that site, they will still get value from it. Whereas if you kind of provide tourist type information on a local site, the people that live there will instantly kind of get turned off by that. So I think over the years we're pretty clear what the focus is there. And they largely kind of aim for 3 things. They aim to kind of deliver the BBC, which is a public service kind of broadcaster. So they aim to deliver local public service content in different parts of the UK to kind of for people that live in that area, largely focusing on journalism, kind of, its key kind of 4 aspects of news, sport, weather and travel, but also other key programming the BBC does around things like nature and history. They're also, and I'll come on to this in the next slide, but they also kind of roughly map, particularly in England, our coverage of our local radio stations. So where we have local radio presence across England and the UK, they're kind of mapped to the same areas, so we try and take a multi-platform approach. And we're also trying to, in some way, provide kind of a local front door to the whole of the BBC for that area. So a BBC Devon website is obviously our kind of a content produced in Devon and for Devon, but also anything the BBC has got that's relevant to Devon, kind of cut and sliced. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's kind of, we talked a bit about aggregation today. A lot of it is still kind of a manual curation and kind of aggregation job rather than automatic, but it's kind of still trying to do that job. I think this is kind of interesting in that we've spent most of the day and talking about, and the whole reason for most of us, all of us being here today, is this crossover between local and social. And actually, kind of more than 40 years ago in this country, local radio started up and was doing exactly that. It was local and it was social. And BBC Local Radio has certainly always had this philosophy that the agenda, kind of the content that you hear as a listener, is actually dictated by you as a listener, the listeners that are phoning in and contributing to the programme, and the philosophy that the phone lines are always open. So at any point in the day, listening to local radio, you can actually pick up the telephone, you can take part, what we now call kind of user-generated content, but it certainly wasn't called that kind of 40 years ago. But the audience and the users, the listeners, as was kind of dictating kind of part of the agenda. And I think that that phone lines is always open kind of philosophy is something we've tried to kind of translate onto the web to some kind of varying degrees of success, but certainly kind of in the way we approach this kind of multi-platform link between the websites and the radio stations is something we're kind of keen to achieve. It's interesting how when you look back over the kind of the years of trying to do this and how we're trying to engage local audiences using kind of the new social tools and the web platform, this is very much kind of the picture where we are now, and you can see quite easily that actually pretty much all those examples I've put up there have not got a BBC banner along the top of the web page of the screenshot. And I think that's absolutely kind of key to where we've come to and where we're going on the BBC is actually remembering that the BBC is fundamentally kind of a public service content creator, and that we create content for the benefit of all licence fee payers in the country. And that actually, it's not our job to kind of be spending money or effort or time to kind of be building tools or services or new kind of applications, but actually just kind of using what's there and what the audience is using to get kind of our content out there. And again, kind of scanning around, most of this is based around kind of event-based content or our key kind of public service areas, but just using Twitter or Flickr or Facebook or YouTube or wherever it is to kind of get our content out to the most number of people. Kind of the other, so that's kind of, I guess those kind of things encompass a bit of kind of the local content and what we're doing and where that's trying to go. The other kind of aspect which I kind of mentioned and which is kind of, I think, probably my biggest challenge for the next 12 months is taking a BBC website, which is, if anyone has used the BBC website at all, you'll kind of, as you surf around and click around, you'll find it's quite actually really a collection of many different websites within itself, all kind of built using different production tools and systems, underlying applications. And really, I think at the heart of what we want to do is kind of move away from this, which is, from about 2 weeks ago, I spent 10 minutes looking around our site and could grab all of those examples where we're asking users to put in a postcode to get either the weather for their area, the reception advice for their area, whether they can get digital TV for their area, news and sport and local information and politics and so forth. And actually, but you can do it on one bit of the site, you go to another bit of the site, you have to do it again, you have to do it again, you have to do it again. And actually, clearly, what we want to do is have a common tool underneath the thing, which actually, by whatever means, and I'm certainly by no means advocating use of postcode here, it works quite well for where you live, but it certainly doesn't work if you're trying to visit somewhere else or find information about a different part of the country. But find a way to take all of the content the BBC have got and we've got, and kind of slice that in such a way as to make sense to the user on some kind of location preference. So I think kind of keep it short and sweet. I think really kind of where we're going, the problems we're trying to solve, that's absolutely kind of one of them. And I think the other one is around our local content service and working out how we kind of take what we have got on our linear output on radio and TV, marry that with what we can do on our web content, with our web service output, but also then increasingly work with the market and the kind of things that Roland was talking about that Northcliffe are doing and the other newspaper providers to kind of work out how our level of what we call local, our localness, which is kind of essentially kind of what the newspapers called regional level, how we can kind of partner with them to kind of work in the ideal kind of public service way, I think, to kind of try and mesh a lot of this up. So my remit is quite wide and varied, but I'm interested in kind of hearing any thoughts or taking questions on any of that kind of stuff as we move into the panel.